Hello everyone, this is Sarah from myosh. Welcome to our training webinar today. Today's webinar is on the chemical registers, and before I hand over to Catherine, I'm just going to share a link to any future webinars that are coming up. We'll be announcing some new training webinars in the next couple of days. So over to you, Catherine. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Sarah. Thank you everyone for joining the session today. So as Sarah's just said, we're going to go through chemical registers. The session is really to look at the functionality, look what's available, get familiar with the workflow and also notifications. Everyone will be aware of the configuration capabilities of the Viking system. So if there are fields that you see that you think they're not necessarily a requirement that you have, you know that even with basic administrator access, you'll be able to make changes to field names and maybe take some out or add them in if required. Any questions, please just add them to, there should be a questions section within your screen that you've got available to you, but I'm also happy to answer those as we progress through if there are lots of them coming in. So just before we get started with this particular module, what you'll see here in the top left-hand corner of the screen is the chemical register form. So it's always going to default to your main form where you're going to keep a record of all of your chemicals and hazardous items within the organisation. What we have though is a subform. It's essentially a linked record that's referred to as hazard class. This is where you'll keep a list, almost like a library if you like. I just open up this record. So if I select edit, what we have here is a place where we can store the hazard class. So we can relate, we can be logging an actual chemical and we can associate with that a series of classes that it will fall into and link those in. So rather than having to create those every time you log a chemical record, you can just link in the class that that particular chemical falls into. So you can see in here it records the hazard class, the category, the actual signal word, and any statements and symbols as applicable. Now I'm just going to flick back to the chemical register, and what we'll do is we'll log one from scratch for today's session. So let's select new record. In the details section, we've got the chemical name. Please don't judge me if I make some spelling errors. The common name, so we can see that is not a mandatory requirement for us to place in there, but we'll place it in for today's session. The chemical state, and you can see that that's a drop-down list which we can add to, and we can just select as needed. What you'll have seen there is that as you begin to start typing in the value, it automatically populates. You can record a CAS number if you have that, and the UN number as well. In the pack size, just enter in a value as applicable, and however many numbers of packs that you have. As we move down the form, we've then got the amount that's available in whatever measurement it is. So in this case, we'll say it's in litres. And then it asks for the proportion that is hazardous ingredient. So for this particular one, I'll just put this as 60%. You can link to the SDS. So you can place in the URL that relates to that particular chemical if you like as well. The expiry for the SDS is important because what that's going to do is trigger an actual notification to either a group of people that you choose to nominate or an individual, either on the actual expiry date, or you can trigger it 30 days prior to that. So I'm just going to place this one in for maybe sometime in June. And then we get to the hazard class section. So the hazard class is essentially what we were just looking at a moment ago, where it's going to that linked record of all those types of categories that this particular chemical may fall into. You'll see that we've got the select button, which is the one that we're going to use for today's session, but there is also the log new. So if what you're looking for isn't within that library of stored class items, you can go in and record another. So whenever you're using a linked record with the select, what it will do is it will take you to this screen where it's actually showing you all of the available list items that you have. So if I can scroll down here, this is showing me all of those items in the library. And we can use any of the filters along the top to either look for the hazard statement, the category, or the particular class. So I'm going to select just a couple to add in. Just add these two. Select add selected and submit. That will return us back to our chemical register, and we'll now see the table showing us all of the actual hazard class that are associated with this particular chemical. The next section, or I should say the next field question that we have here, is going to either show a section or keep it hidden. So if I select yes to perform a risk assessment, then I'll be able to go to the hazard chemical risk analysis and complete all of those associated questions. If I select no, then that's going to remain hidden. So for this particular example, just so you can see what is available for the risk assessment sections, I'm just going to complete that for you for today. Like I say, if you've got any questions as we're going through this, please just feel free to add them to the Zoom section at the bottom. So what we have in here is mandatory fields for completion. And as I said at the beginning of the session, as required, you can just make changes to those and change as needed. Maybe if we say 10 litres per shift. And it's just a requirement to just select as needed for the remaining questions. So current controls are inadequate if not present within the SDS requires them, or if not functioning well. So at this point now, we would just select as appropriate. Just select a couple from that list. Any monitoring. And because we've got these in as checkboxes, you can have multiple items selected in there. In the conclusion, as part of the risk assessment, you would then select as appropriate from this list. And then any additional comments can be logged. As with most of the myosh modules that we have available, we have the associated actions in there. So you're able to perhaps create an action if there needs to be a review perhaps by another team member. You could log that action, it will be assigned out to them, and that could be monitored within this particular chemical register. I'm just going to review everything that we've completed so far. And now if we select save. Then we select exit. So what should happen, and I think it's just as a restriction on my access in this system, unfortunately, but as soon we should have a button that was available for us to select submit. That will update the chemical register to active, and I've actually already got one in the system that we had available to us. Now, once we've got an active chemical register, we will be able to, dependent on access, actually archive that chemical. So if it's no longer in use within the company, then you can archive it. Anything that has been archived will also be able to be reactivated at any stage. So I'm just going to take a pause for a moment and see if there are any questions that are coming through for the session.
No, we don't have any, Catherine.
Okay, thanks, Sarah. Looking at the actual list of chemicals that are available to us, remember as well that you've got your record list in here. So the record list is a great place to be able to just filter the list of chemicals that you might have if you wanted to look at something specifically. So if you were looking for details about any chemicals that relate to ammonia, you can just filter that list. As well, you'll be able to use your SDS expiry date if you were looking for anything that potentially is going to expire during the month of May. And in this case, there isn't anything, which is good. And again, you've got any other types of filter available as required. If there are no questions, thank you all for your time today, and I hope you all enjoy the rest of your day.
No, we don't have any questions. Thank you very much, Catherine. We'll include a video of this on myosh Academy. If anyone wants a copy of that, you can email Tegan Bates or support. So thanks, Catherine. I think next week it's planning at this stage to be contractor management, but we'll let you know and confirm down the track. Okay, thank you, everyone. Thanks, Catherine.
Thanks.